welcome everybody to European Stories from a Union of Volunteers. Today's guest is Marie Heimburg. She's from Germany, now currently living in Sweden, in Göteborg. And she already did her ESC, some years ago, 2012 in Spain. Now she just finished her master in communication in Sweden, and she will tell us a bit about her European Solidarity Corps, but of course as well the life afterwards, since it's very interesting for current and also former volunteers what to do after your ESC. So welcome again, Marie. I'm very happy that you are with us today.
Hi everybody, and thank you, Paula, for this nice introduction and for having me on your podcast. I just want to say I think I've been a little bit of a fangirl, so I'm extremely excited to have made it into the show itself.
That's so cool. I'm also quite happy that you're here. Because we have also an own podcast show. We will come to that later to make a bit advertisement as well. All right. So to jump directly into our first question. Very easy. When and where did you do your ESC project?
So I see myself a little bit like as a dinosaur because I've done my ESC, which was back then still called European Voluntary Service. And I've been volunteering in Spain, in the north of Spain, in Catalonia, from 2012 to 2013. So soon it's going to be a solid 10 years ago. But yes.
And what was your project about?
I think I was mainly required to teach people German. Back in the day, it was kind of like some years after the economic crisis, and there was a very high unemployment rate in Spain, and people were interested to leave Spain to whatever other country where they could find work. And I think one country among those was Germany. So people were interested in learning languages, and that was one of my tasks. And it was quite challenging, actually, because I arrived in Spain not knowing a lot of Spanish. And then I had to teach Spanish students German, which kind of requires a lot of language skills, because you can't really teach a language if you don't even know the language that you have to communicate with your students in. So that was a really, a task that I thought like is impossible to somehow manage. But little did I know, you always see what much you can learn. So I taught Spanish, and I was also doing afternoon youth club facilitation for people from a marginalized area in the city. So there was teenagers coming to use computers and do their homework, and I was there to kind of help out and make sure the room doesn't burn down. Yes.
All right. And why did you choose exactly this project? Why exactly Spain? Did you know? Well, no, you didn't know Spanish before, I think.
It's a good question. And as much as I would love to say that I've been searching for this project a long time and then I went there, I have to be honest. I was one of those last minute people that was trying to go to transatlantic projects. Like I wanted to end up in Ecuador or Latin America, and I didn't get any volunteering projects there. So I got a bit desperate because I really wanted to go abroad. And then I somehow stumbled across the European Voluntary Service, and I was like, damn, why did I never hear about this earlier? So I took a last minute place, which was like already accredited project. So I couldn't really choose. I just had to jump in it, and it happened to be in the north of Spain, in Lleida. So that's how I ended up there.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also good advice if you're searching for an ESC project, because sometimes you're maybe very focused on one project and you really want to go there, but then it doesn't work. So there are always a lot of last minute projects, which are also very great, I think. All right. And what did you like the most about volunteering, or the most about your tasks you were doing there?
I think that's a very good question. And I would say that what I like most about volunteering up until today, but also back then, is that you have this a bit like chance to grow and learn, because you maybe do something that you haven't done before, and there's not always this pre-existing conditions that you need to have knowledge to do the task, but you get a chance to do something, and you have this chance to learn by doing. So I think this is one of the things I find most fascinating about volunteering. And it's giving you this chance to learn about yourself and to learn to become aware of what you're capable of. And I think this is like, I mean, I volunteered before my project abroad, but I think this was like the biggest and most valuable takeaway from my voluntary service, that I became aware of my own potential. And I was learning side by side with a lot of other people I met there. So that was a really beautiful experience.
And you mentioned already you learned a lot out of the good things, but I guess there were also some challenges, some problems. What were those?
I think like it was the first time I moved abroad. I was 18, I think, back then. And I had to basically learn how to live alone and how to do my own laundry and how to survive by cooking, you know, calling your mom. Back in the days, we didn't even have like WhatsApp video calls. So it was like a very expensive international phone call and like asking mom how to make lasagna or something. But like that was not the biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge was being alone and like being strange and feeling not understood. I think the worst for me as a communicative person, I hated that feeling of not being able to say what I wanted to say. And people always super nice to you and they're telling you like, yeah, I know what you mean. And you just know that, no, you don't know what I mean. And it made me really, really angry inside. So I think what I learned by this challenge of like being the stranger is like, I learned to understand what it feels like to be the outsider and to be the stranger, to not be part of the main in-group. And I think this is a very good learning experience because it helps you to understand people that are struggling because, you know, maybe immigrants or I don't know, just like anyone who comes to a new place and, you know, feels isolated and lonely and has problems to get into like friend circles or something. It's easier to sympathize with those people if you have been in that position yourself before. And I also think if you are lonely and you're struggling and you still keep going and you decide not to give up, it once again shows you how much strength you actually have and how much potential you actually have if you just kind of hang on in there and keep going. So yeah, I think I learned a certain, I don't know, patience and dedication when I was volunteering.
Wow, so nice, so well reflected, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And did you manage also to learn some Spanish?
I did, yes. One has to know that I said I was volunteering in the north of Spain. So when I came there, I was like all, you know, a young German thinking like, wow, I'm going to go to Spain. It's going to be all nice. And then I really quickly understood that the north of Spain is Catalonia, and people in Catalonia are still, but also already back then, were really fighting for independence and had this strong belief that they would like to separate from Spain and like be kind of seen as a separate identity with their own culture and language. So they also speak Catalan there, which is not just a dialect of Spanish. It's like an own language, like a how do you say, like a accepted language in Spain, and it has its own grammar and everything. So I did learn to speak Spanish because people in my work would teach me Spanish. But then I also learned to understand Catalan because my entire like life in the city, going to stores, would be like me facing people speaking Catalan. So I would say it was almost like a little bit of a bilingual experience. And but for a long time, now it's too long ago, but for a long time I used to be super, super good and fluent in Spanish. And now it's kind of being overwritten a little bit by Swedish because there's a new language coming in. So your brain is just a whole mixed up mess.
So we're slowly coming to the end of your volunteering experience. How were the last weeks or the last days in Spain? Do you remember?
It was around spring. And I remember that it was like my project was 8 months long. So not super long, but also not super short. And I remember that this feeling of being the stranger and struggling and feeling lonely was ending like maybe half time of my project. And then you started enjoying everything. You had made new friends. You were finally able to communicate. And then just when you're at the peak and everything seems amazing, you already have to leave. So I remember it with a certain melancholic feeling. I was proud and happy, and in a way also looking forward to getting home. But I was also sad to leave behind what I had worked for so hard. So it's like a two-sided coin. It has something nice, but it also has this nostalgic feeling of having to leave something that, yeah, this became important for you. So it was a bit sad, but it always is when you have to leave from places, I feel.
And then you arrived at home, Germany, I think. And what was your first impression when you arrived back in Germany?
I remember, funnily enough, that I was a bit disappointed that people don't kiss each other. Now in Corona times, this seems like a very dangerous thing to do anyways, but in Spain it was the thing, like even first day at work, you don't know anyone, like your boss and your colleagues, everyone comes to you and gives you those like kisses on the cheeks to say hi, and you're like completely stressed because you don't know which side to go first and it's so close. And when I came back home, I kind of missed that among my friends. Even my closest friends would still be very German. So you know, maybe you don't even hug each other when you arrive. You just say like, hey. And yeah, that was a bit, yeah, you felt a bit like keeping the distance was a bit strange. But I also have to admit that in order to not get into this sadness and melancholic, oh no, I'm missing my other home in Spain, I threw myself into work. So I remember that I was working in a restaurant kind of like 5 days after I made it back. And that was maybe a bit crazy, but also very good distraction because it kept you busy. And I also got money, so I could go travel again.
Yeah, good strategy. All right. And so, what did you do after your EC and after you worked in the restaurant? Did you start to study or work or something?
So I was back in April 2013, and then studies in Germany don't start until October, I think. So I had like half a year. And in this half a year, I worked, and then I had made friends in my volunteering times. And then I went to do a European Interrail trip. So my plan was to travel whole Europe for a month. I didn't manage that. I only traveled the Scandinavian countries. So I started in Denmark, went to Sweden, made it over to Finland, and did some hiking, visited friends that I had met in Spain. And then I went back. Maybe, you know, a little teaser for why I'm living in Sweden now. I don't know. And then I started studying in October, and I chose to study to be a teacher for Spanish and English. So in a way, my volunteering experience, where I had to be a teacher for German, really influenced me in my first choice of studies because, yeah, I wanted to become a Spanish teacher then. I have to also say that I only studied that for a year. And then I changed again because I kind of realized that maybe teaching isn't my main, I don't know, destination. But yeah, for a short while, this is like I was totally influenced by my tasks in my project.
Yeah, I have the same experience when I was coming back from Hungary. I mean, I knew out of my ESC what I would like, what I wanted to study, European studies. Although I had been a teacher in Hungary as well, but it really influenced my life afterwards. Also, being on this European track somehow and stay connected with other volunteers. Yeah, good work to mention. Are you still connected? I mean, now it's already 8, 9 years ago, but maybe in the first 5 years, were you still connected with former volunteers or people you got to know in Spain?
I am up until today, actually. Not with people from my project so much, neither with my roommate. Like I was living with a French girl back then, and she was as old as I am now. So we kind of had like an age gap that I think made us just enter different stages in life after the project. But I made some friends on this midterm and on arrival seminars. And they were also not Spanish because they came to Spain to volunteer, but it's a German and an Austrian and a Finnish girl. And we kept it up rather frequently after the project to meet up sometimes and I went to this interrail trip and I visited the friend in Finland, but I still have at least two of them, the Austrian girl and the German one, that are like in regular phone calls with me, and we're visiting each other. So yeah, in a way I found like friends for hopefully life. I hope they last longer than just like up until now.
Yeah, so nice. And so, how did your life go on after you decided to stop studying teaching? What did you do afterwards?
I changed to study something else, which was called social sciences with a focus on intercultural relations. So it was very much also in that field of understanding society, going a bit deeper into the communication, and everything with a focus on us and the other, like this hybrid space where we meet someone from another place, and then you try to understand what do we have in common, what is different. And I find this so very fascinating. So I think something that I was given a chance to experience myself in my voluntary service followed me then into my studies, where I kind of tried to look a bit onto the scientific side of what happens when different cultures mix. And so I studied that, and then the soonest or the first chance I had, I was applying for an Erasmus semester, which I then did in the north of Sweden, in Umeå. It's 600 kilometers north of Stockholm, and it's a total different experience compared to Spain, because it was, yes, another way of living abroad, but like a total different culture, different language, and also different climate. So yeah, and I think then in Sweden, I met my partner, which led me to come back for my master's as well. And somehow I feel my voluntary service was kind of opening that door to this curious me that's just going around and trying to explore a lot of places. And I think once I understood that I can survive in Spain, and you can, if you just stay for a little while, you will eventually learn the language, and you've become aware of your own potential, that you can, you can make it in a different place, and you can like get into the culture, and you're strong, and you will manage despite the challenges you have to go through. I think once I had understood this, I felt ready to search for more of those adventures. So in a way, like doing an Erasmus semester is like a short-term time, like you're there for 5 months, maybe half a year. But then I moved to Sweden in 2018, and I've been living here for like 2.5 years now. And it's been exciting. I really like it, and now I feel like I belong here more than in the beginning. But yeah, you just I think it's cool. It's cool to be not from a place. It's cool to be the stranger and
Yes.
to keep learning. So yeah.
I see. And are you still, or I know that you're still active in this European youth work volunteers, so you're also a member of the Europeans, which we already talked about with Emily in our second episode, I think, of the season. So you can check this out, dear listeners, if you don't know what it is. But I also in other projects or initiatives like promoting youth work across Europe.
I joined the Europeans Network in 2014, like shortly after I've been coming back from Spain, and then I stayed active in one way or another. And I actually did a trainer education with Salto Youth from 2017 to 18. So I'm a certified, qualified trainer that's allowed to teach those international and national seminars. And I think this is maybe the most active part that I do at the moment. I am involved in teaching and training a new generation of people that want to make a difference in European youth work. And in Sweden, the network like functions a bit different than in Germany. So I'm also involved in kind of like helping to promote the Europeans network here in Sweden, because I would very much like Sweden to kind of join on and get on board of this ship. But yeah, so kind of spreading, like sharing your experience and trying to get other people involved. And that's maybe the most I do at the moment.
Oh, all right, that's very interesting. And like one of the final questions, what are your plans for the future? I mean, they're still open, I guess, but what do you think? Or what is your wish, your dream to work one day?
At the moment, I am applying for jobs. I have been for a while. But in this time, it's actually like you keep coming back to the self-reflection of, okay, so what do I want to do and what am I able to do and what are my experiences? Because, that's the way how you get a job. You kind of try to promote your skills to a possible employer. And then you also think about what you're fascinated about. And I realized that there's this red line or red thread through my past years that are like, this is very much around this, exchange and diversity and intercultural competences and like being fascinated about like the self and the other. And so I'm trying to get a job in that field of helping to facilitate integration and intercultural progress, I would say. And I feel that Sweden is a country that is very often seen as a very diverse and progressive country and, super welcoming and everyone is welcome. And the thing is, it is in a way, but there's still a lot of work to do. So I hope that I can add my skills and my enthusiasm in some sort of job where I can help other people to have a smooth integration process here. Because I think I can use the skills that I have gained on my way. Like I know how it feels to be the other. I know what problems you have. And then I also kind of stayed here for a while already. So I know some tips how to maybe, manage to sneak into the Swedish lifestyle. So I'm trying to become involved in this, like helping an intercultural space to grow and kind of maybe creating this... like I'm always thinking also about like solidarity, but like kind of maybe like helping to be how what's the word, like solidarity, no, but like creating more international solidarity. I was like, my English skills are now
I see. And do you have any recommendations for maybe current volunteers or volunteers who just finished their service? What to do or any recommendation regarding anything?
I mean, I think the most important thing for me was always to find like-minded people and stay connected, because it's very dangerous for me to lose my motivation if I'm just by myself. And I know that in times of a global pandemic, there is maybe certain limitations to staying connected, but then there's also a lot of potential within like the digital space. So I think my recommendation is to, I don't know, join projects online, network, get in touch with people in some kind of like groups where people meet that just came back, or go sign up for some, I don't know, local classes for something. I really just recommend you to search the exchange with other people that have been in like similar situations, but also just get in touch with people that maybe haven't been abroad, and then you can possibly share your experiences and motivate someone else, or learn to understand what are fears of people that don't really dare to go somewhere else because they're worried. So I pretty much think that the interpersonal communication and exchange is like one of the greatest things in order to stay motivated and in order to keep evolving and learning. So yeah.
Well, very good recommendation, I think. And since we are slowly coming to the end of this episode, how would you describe your EVS, as it was called back in these days, in one word?
Oof, you put me on the spot here. In one word. I think I kind of want to choose a Spanish word, and the first one that came into my mind right now is estupendo. And I'm not even sure if I have like the literal translation for it, but estupendo I think means something that's like, you can say it about something that when you, for example, look at something that has been done really nicely and it's you're just kind of fascinated and really proud of the result, you can use it as like a word you say there, estupendo. Like, it's fantastic, it's great, and you're kind of like surprised in a good way. And I think somehow this is like, it's also like an exclamation. I think you can use it as an exclamation. And I think this is what kind of, if I condense all the memories of my voluntary service, then despite all the challenges and difficulties that were in this time as well, I kind of end up on a positive, surprised and good memory. So that's why I chose that word. And I mean, sorry for any Spanish-speaking person there. If I'm completely using it wrong, then, you know, it's on me.
What does solidarity mean to you? Very big, broad question.
Solidarity is such a big word. I think solidarity for me means meeting each other on eye level, and something that goes in this direction of sharing is caring, and trying to support each other and trying to understand each other, and maybe also trying to unite to fight for the same cause, whatever this might be. And there's so many different types of solidarity, but I think the core or essence for me is trying to meet each other on an eye level and trying to connect and understand each other.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last question, do you have a song which represents volunteering for you? So doesn't have to be from your ESC, but maybe there's a song which you listen to a lot of, or which just represents volunteering for you.
There's like, can I have two songs?
Of course.
I think one song is Wind of Change by the Scorpions, because it just kind of represents all this processing and changes that you go through when you're volunteering, because you maybe come there and you have one certain mindset and think this is how things are, and then you understand that it's all different, so you see that there's like change, and then you change yourself because you keep evolving and learning. So in a way, like Wind of Change is one song that I always think of when I think of volunteering. And then another song is Home by Passenger, and the lyrics in the very beginning of the song go, they say home is where the heart is, but my heart is wild and free. So am I homeless or am I heartless? And that's a song I listened to a lot when I was on my Erasmus, but I think it represents very nicely this feeling of what is home, and like where is home, and is home only there where we're from, or is home where we chose to be? And I think it always keeps me thinking about that you can have several places as a home, and I think that's like a beautiful way to look back at your volunteering as well, because if you see it just as like a little place that's also home to you, then it becomes easier to be okay with like living in a different place now, because you know that maybe you have a piece of home somewhere else, and if you want, you can always go back and visit.
Oh, that's so nice. And by these, yes, I'm going to put the both songs in our playlist. I will put the link in the description as well. And by these nice words, we are slowly coming to an end. But before we do this, just a very short disclaimer. Marie, now you have the time to pitch your podcast in 2 sentences.
Yes. This is the shameless plug. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So she has mentioned in the beginning that I also am a podcast host. I do a show that's called The Show About Nothing, where we talk about everything and nothing, and no topic is taboo. It's a local radio show here in Gothenburg, but we do upload it as a podcast version on Spotify. And you can search for The Show About Nothing and add a K103 behind it, because I think there's several shows that are called like this. And this is the radio station we're belonging to, K103. So Show About Nothing, K103 on Spotify. Give it a listen.
All right. I will put also the link in the show notes. And now we are closing this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, Marie. And leave us also a rating on Apple Podcast. Next week, it will be again the episode with José. But for now, thanks a lot, Marie.
Thank you.
And bye-bye.
Goodbye.